Alright, welcome to the learning experience, where we review all news related to X and do some giveaways and all sorts of fun stuff. And there's also, of course, playtime. Now, this week we have a ton of news. I'm still not recovered 100% yet with my voice, so bear with me. There might be some muted microphone occurrences during the stream just for me to recover a bit with a voice, but it's going fine, and things will be hopefully 100% for the next episode. Now, this week there's a ton of news. We're going to do all sorts of nice stuff. As we always do at the start of the stream, we're going to run some PvE for now, since we're on the brim of getting a brand new expansion with an insane amount of content for us to mow through. We're going to test this quick list here. This is a project that I have ongoing. There will be a lot more news related to that project very soon, but for the most part, what I'm be doing is I want to create a resource for new players and even older players, really, to have stock lists for each races and each classes, if appropriate. So that when you want to start a dwarf ranger, for instance, when you want to start an orc warrior, it's often hard to know what you want in your deck. What's a good warrior deck? What is a good ranger deck? And what I'll be doing is I'll generate lists. I'll open a post on the forums, and I'll ask the community to participate as well. And we're going to try to identify what are the best budget level 2 lists for each races, and also mention the variation for each classes with these races, so that new player can come in, and even old players, right? If it's been a while since you played the Adventure Zone, chances are you have old characters with old lists that are not updated, and there are also new cards that came out recently that have very strong combos and you might not be aware. And the goal will be really to have these lists, tested list that works fine, level 2 characters that can list. My criteria was that these lists need to be able to clear Frustrating Arena. That would be the power level, that's a benchmark I'm using right now for level 2 characters list, to know if they're good or not. Are they able to clear Frustrating Arena? Because Frustrating Arena is in many ways harder than the first few encounters in Adventure Zone 1, and I would even go as far as to say that Frustrating Arena is harder than the first 3 dungeons. So this is something that we'll be using. I'm ordering a few lists. I'm very close to be completed on these early lists, and this is something I'll be working on for the stream. Yeah, that one. I had a free to play challenge replay and well time, and yeah, this is really hard. Like and the one I was running, I was using the auction house and the gold I was getting to buy new cards and pieces of very key equipment. But it's not a small task, and as the our friends on the Five Stripes podcast pointed out on the last podcast, it's really it's hard to. It's easy to forget when you have a big collection and you're used to the content and you ran it multiple times, to forget about the difficulty. And if you want to, Adventure Zone 1 is difficult. If you start with a brand new account, you only have the stock collection, it's going to be a challenge to go through that content. If you're an experienced player, it's going to be a lot less of a challenge. But if you're just a casual, TCG player that likes TCG, and you get into X and you get into PvE, you're going to have a hard time. And there's just so many cards, so many equipment. How can you know what to look for? How can you know that what are the strong combinations? And you'll have limited resources in terms of gold, and maybe in terms of some amount of platinum if you want to invest a bit. And it's hard to know what to go for, because you might as well spend a lot of golds and a few platinum on things that in the end will not be powerful enough to help you go through the content. So it's really what I want to provide is a snapshot, an idea of, hey, if you want to run this race and this class, here's what's powerful. Here's what's powerful that doesn't cost a lot, that should help you go through most of the content. So this is what we'll be doing here in the upcoming weeks, and I'm hopeful that I'll be able to put the first few lists on the forum today. I got like 5, 6 completed right now, so it should be fun. It should be fun. One thing, guys, if you're creating brand new characters for Adventure Zone and you want to look for the strong combination, this guy here from set 5 is insane. Scrounge 2, when this interplay, deals 4 damage to each opposing champion. That's not very powerful, but there's a chest equipped that makes it so that it deals 4 damage to each opposing champion and troop. So this here is at common becomes a Lasgar's Vengeance for 6, essentially, and this is a common, so you can have 3 in your deck, and it's extremely good. I've had so many great results with this card, and right now, if you're playing Ruby and you're starting a brand new character in Adventure Zone 1, and you have you already played a bit, and you're trying to pump up your deck, and you're playing Ruby in the campaign, this equip right now is not that costly. I think it's like Chain of the Marksman. Well, let's just check it, but that's the... It's a legendary from Promo Chest, I know, but it's not that costly right now. Maybe people will catch up with it, but you know, it's 100 platinum. That's very, very low. Very low, very easy to get at this point. I mean, if people catch up, that's another thing, but these are the interaction you want to show, right? And these lists will be moving, right? They're not, I don't see these being static. So at some point, if one piece of the list becomes too costly because everyone is getting it, then we're going to update the list and find replacement for cards that are, you know, better or easier to find. But these are the things I wanted to look for these lists. Like give the new players and those who want to go into the campaign have an idea of what's strong, right? What is strong? What are the strong synergies? What are the strong equipment that you want? And if you want to step your deck up a notch, try to get these things. And this is where I'll be going with this list. So here I was working on a and I don't think this one is the one, but for the most part right now, if you're playing Ruby, it's hard not to include Mama Yetis and Baby Yetis. There's just Mama Yetis just so strong. You usually win when you play Mama Yeti in Frustrating Arena and in Adventure Zone early encounters. So and I'm testing with a few different things. The Chikatwais turned out to be fairly okay. Very good aggressive cards. It can remove a blocker. It's easily removed itself, but for the most part, it's pretty cool. We know any side are keeping up with Merc spoilers. There's a thread in the forum that tracks the spoilers, but I don't think there's a lot of Mercenaries in there. I don't know if X-Primals are usually on top of these things. I'm wondering if they have something. Usually, that's true. 5 Shards also usually have a spoiler page, so let's see if they have their spoiler page up and running. No, it doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of resources for that, but that's another thing that might come in the near future. I'm really pumped for the Mercenaries. This is something we'll be reviewing today at length. And excellent. Thanks for the link. Appreciate it. Are the mercs there? There's the cards. I see. I don't see the mercs though. Dingler King might be surprising. Might be surprising you. It creates a polymorph Dingler, and there's two very strong equipment for polymorph Dingler. So, if we can find a build that puts a lot of troops into play very quickly, the fact that you can every 2 turn have a 3 cost polymorph Dingler that draws your card is very significant. I mean, it's something. I'm pretty sure it would be strong enough to be, at the very least, playable. Granted, the party the party power is just not that great, but you know, if yeah, it's mainly a joke. What I'm saying is that, you know, there's a way to make it work. There's a way to make it work. That's what I'm saying. And thinking about it, I mean, if you're able to use its power every 2 turns, that means that you're putting out troops every 2 turns, a decent amount of troops, so that you do have a lot of blockers. So if you're not fighting a burn deck, it might be just fine, and you can certainly deal with troops if you're getting a free polymorph Dingler that costs 3 and draw you a card every 2 turns, right? And it might be even faster than that. So maybe there's hope. I'm not saying, you know, it will be great, but yeah, only 9 health is crippling. It's really crippling. But what I'm saying is that there may be a way. There may be a way to make this work. It creates a powerful card with 2 good equipment, so I'm pretty sure there will be encounters where you can use that you know, efficiently. But the 9 health is just, and the 61 card as well. It's just, you know this is a joke, right? When you look at all the requirements. And hey, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Los Presente 7, welcome to the team. So here, we're not doing anything. It's a joke, but at the same time, it's a challenge as well, right? Because you do want, you know, well, for the most part, I myself will want to have all mercenaries and have them unlocked, upgraded. Sorry for that. So yeah, all my renting there just went to the just went straight to the void. But in short, there's tons of ways to abuse having one, you know, starting one troop in play, and the party passive might be okay, It's not going to be great. It's not going to be the best, but it might it might serve a purpose enough so that you play it in a somewhat competitive deck. And starting with a troop in play, even if it's a dingler, there's a lot of upsides to it. There's a lot of strategies that can really take advantage of that. So that's really something to keep in mind. And also the dingler, yes, it's a joke mercenary for the most part. It's a dingler king, right? It cannot be that good, but it's also a challenge. I'll be one of the one of the players who wants to have all the mercenaries and have them all upgraded. So for me, it's going to be a challenge, like an achievement, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward for these bad mercenaries, quote unquote bad mercenaries, just to, take up the challenge and try to upgrade them, have them upgraded, and see how we can do that and what's the best list to do it. And this will also be part of the resource that I want to develop for the PvE, is that, I want to provide stock lists for level 2 characters, but I want to also track, stock best lists for the mercenaries as well, because they have their own, their own grid for making the decks. So it will be very interesting, right? At some point, someone will create a very strong Dingler King list that can easily get him upgraded, and that's nice to have that resource available for those who don't want to spend. There are players that loves to play but doesn't necessarily love to theorycraft all that much, and don't like to spend like 10 hours on building the best Dingler King deck possible. That's something I really enjoy myself, but it's not for all players, and that's okay. That's part of the deal, right? These TCGs, they appeal to all sorts of different types of players, so I'm looking forward to create these resources to see what comes out of it. That's going to be awesome. And as I said, my goal is to have the post up this today with the first few lists, and start a discussion with the community, see how we can improve the list, and work together to have what's the perfect level 2 Dwarf Ranger list, for instance, and see how we can move forward from there, and help the new players, help old players that don't play PvE that much to find good lists that they can use, and that will be the goal here. I feel that there's a great spot where there's a void regarding PvE content and resources, and we're going to try to fix that. I'm not sure. That's an interesting thought, but at the same time, mercenaries will not be available to your character at the lowest level in the adventure zone. So I'm not sure that we'll have mercenary encounters in the earlier dungeon. I'd be surprised, to be honest. I'd be surprised, because you're not going to have them with your characters anyway. So true, you can go back, but I'm not sure how that worked really, because you come back, your character will be way more powerful than it was before. So these, mercenary nodes that you had in older dungeon, they need to be extra hard, likely so hard that you can't really do them with your newer characters. And so that would be something you can only access with your mercenaries, and the rest of the content of the dungeon would be very, very easy. So that would be the only challenging node, so to speak. Now, it feels to me that if they're doing that, they're just going to make a heroic or a harder version of the early dungeons, where you have new mercenary nodes. Now, that's the only way I see it work, really. But that would be cool, though. No, don't get me wrong. I would love that. I would love that they make they make the first few dungeons hard mode, so to speak, and add mercenary nodes in them. That would be so cool. I would be 100% for that. No question there. Smoldering that. One Shire. Man, I can't wait for these two. And we're just going to do a few fights here. I think that this is a stock list for a level 2 Hork. There's a few powerful things we're doing right now, but I don't feel it's powerful enough, really, compared to the other list that I came up for the level 2 characters. I'm gonna try to work with that. The one shard that really bugs me for level 2 character is Blood. Because there's a ton of stuff in Blood that is extremely powerful, but it's of higher rarity. And the lower rarity stuff is mostly aggressive cards, but they don't provide a very powerful premise. And the problem with that is that, you know, if you encounter, you know, Heat Wave early or anything of the sort very early in the game, or mass removal, and some Frustrating Arena characters do have that, and to that extent some early campaign encounters have that as well, then you're pretty much toasted. And I didn't want to have, you know, all in lists, but feels like maybe Blood Ruby will need to be a bit of an all-in strat here for it to work. This is where the Marksman comes in, because with its ability to just wreck the board and do the Last Guardian Vengeance effect is just so good. No! Alright. Okay, sure. You know what? Oh no, it's Swift Strike. Never mind. Huh. Yeah, I'm a bit stalled right there. The other list, like, if you're playing Sapphire with early characters, it's really easy. You have access to Cloud Walk with the legendary equip. And again, right now that equipment is fairly cheap on the auction house. And if you do grab one, then you're in for a treat. You're going to have an extremely strong deck that is going to wreck Frustrating Arena, and I'm pretty sure you can go up to 82 with that stock list at level 2 with a level 2 character, no problem. I even had, you know, with Ruby Sapphire characters I created, I was able to have a perfect clear with the Frustrating Arena. So that's a big achievement for a stock list for level 2 characters. So these lists will be available in the near future. What do we do from there? I think we need to pull a Marksman. If we do, we're good. But yeah, I don't like this list. I'm going to start from scratch. There's a few powerful things the list does, but it's like the Mama Yetis are good with the Yetis. This is definitely something that stays. For early blood players, the Killblade of the Milky Eye is great. Trading with anything is pretty strong, and it's an early troop, so that works well. Chikatoys are nice if you're on the offensive. This is likely the strongest piece of the strongest common card you can get if you have the equip. Just need ways to have the crypt filled, so this is why I went with the Slyuntress with the equip. Like, if you just play one, you have your scrounge for the Marksman as well. Maybe I should go with a scrounge list, or just a straight up aggro list with orcs, very all in, and that's it. But I don't like these all in lists though, for early content. Maybe it's required. I mean, the Bloodsworn is so strong. There's a few cards, right? We could even go with the Irregular and the Duelist with the Brutalizer to have a Utils tie deck. Maybe that could be it. But yeah, this is where we're going to have going to need the community to help here with me, and should be able to put that post up today by the end of the day, so that we can start working on the list. But if we look quickly, hey, the Crusty Dong, thank you for follow, appreciate it. Welcome to the stream, and Chedan, thanks for the follow. I'm not sure I gave you a shout out when you did. So the first one I built was the Ranger, the Dwarf stock list. This is a Ranger list, and it is extremely good. Like, you can clear Frustrating Arena no problem, and you can clear the first 3 dungeons no problem with this list. The way it works is that if you have Clockwork at the start of the game, you're mainly good, you're going to win. What will happen is that you will be using Cloudwalk on turn 2, bringing in, 1 flight troops, and if you're using Cloudwalk on either Duelist or Ranger, you're likely just going to empty your hand, because if you have 2 or 3 flight troops, with the Cloudwalk power, you're going to be able to repeatedly do direct damage to the opposing champion, and then you just put everything in your hand on the board. And that's it. That's pretty much how it works. Added a S02. They're not too costly to get from the auction house, and they're so good when you can play them on turn 2, right? There's a lot of things that can be played on turn 2 that are extremely good, but this one is nice. Pretty nice. Playing the Scrap Wielders and the Constructed 4-man, because early on when you're a Ranger, you will have a pet that is a robot dog for the Dwarf Ranger. So it's an artifact, a robot. So you can use the Scrap Welder to enable. You can use that robot to make sure that you enable Scrap Welder. Make sure that you Frost. 4-man is great with the pet as well. Transforms it into a 3/3 that can attack right away on turn 3. Even if you use the Ranger power to pump the pet, that is a robot dog. When you transform it, it's not a revert effect, so any modification you made on your pet is going to stay there. It's just going to have 2 more attack and 2 more defense. So it's pretty nifty trick here with the Dwarf Ranger. The 4-man is going to be one of the key cards here. The rest is pretty much standard for Ruby, Sapphire, Cloudwalk deck for early builds. Really great, really strong. This is the strongest low level 2 characters list, I'm pretty sure. If not, I have an Elf Ranger deck. This one is mainly aggressive with a decent amount of card draw, and it does have the Marksman here and 1 Majesty, because you're playing Wild, you're going to want to play Majesty. And some amount of troops that just, are very aggressive. There's a lot of direct damage in the list with the 1 cost Chlorophilia, but it does work. It's not great, but it does get the job done. And if you're able to Majesty the Marksman, it's just great, because Majesty has the double damage gem. So that's a big combo there, but it's nice to have one in these kind of lists, right? Next one I had was the Venom Ranger. I went for the Cloudwalk combo here as well, and used the blood mainly to have some evasive threat. The Harvester is fairly strong. The Castigator is a nice card that doesn't cost anything really, and Madness Demon as well, and they both flight, so they both have flight. Really easy to put into play on turn 2 or 3 with Cloudwalk. Deck Spiders with equipment are just insane. And yeah, the Fungus is another very great piece of PvE card that I'm pretty sure we'll see a lot more in the near future. But that list works. It's not as good as the Sapphire Ruby one, but it does get the work done. Human Ranger is the Ruby Sapphire list with a few tricks, since you don't have access to that many artifacts when you're playing a human. It's only 1/1/1/1. And right now I was trying to get the orc to work, but I've yet to find a list that I like for the orc there. So we'll see when we start working with everyone, with the community on the forums, to see what we can come out with and have the best possible early builds that we can with an invisible, tag or price tag point. I'm looking at what I want to do is to have these lists be below $10 at the maximum, and maybe we can manage to have these below 5 really. Accounting to lots of the commons can be sold out for gold for very, very cheap. So yeah, it's going to be a fun project here. But now we do have a metric ton of news to review on the stream today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to switch for the browser view here. So last stream was on the 6th. So anything starting on the 7th, we will be reviewing today. So the first one was that the CoachFliperon winners was announced. So congratulations to Zoosh for taking the crown. For Shinshire, sorry, to taking the crown. Diablo, second place, and here you have all the players that went for the top 8. Was a great tournament. Lots of very interesting deck lists. There's a news that came out a few days later with the deck list. So if you're interested in that, here on November 8th, you have all the deck list of the top 8 for the constructed portion. The really big news that came out last week though was the Mercenaries. So at last, the Mercenaries were revealed. The new mechanic for the campaign. They're great. They're awesome. They pretty much delivered mostly everything that they said about Mercenaries in the past in one form or another. So that's really, really great. They also come in with a change, and I'm going to talk about it right now. They also released an article about the oh no, we reviewed it, right? The fact that there's going to be changes for Adventure Zone 2, namely we no more have dungeon lives, right? And this makes it very interesting. So overall, the way the Mercenaries work is that you're going to be your character, main character in the campaign. At some point during its progression through the content, you'll have a quest, or you'll have a random encounter. It's not clear now how it will happen, but you will encounter a mercenary, and I'm guessing you're going to beat the snot out of it, and he's going to see that you're awesome and that you're strong, and he's going to want to join your party. And at that point, you're going to have a party. So you're going to have your character, your main character, your class and race that you choose when you created your campaign characters. But you will also have a mercenary. Every character will be able to have up to 3 mercenaries in their parties. I'm mentioning up to 3 because when you unlock the mercenaries, you won't unlock all 3 slots right away. It will be done through the progression. So at first you will only have access to one mercenaries. At some point you will get your second slot. At some point you will get your third. Is it through the progression, through a quest? Is it through gold, like buying mercenary slots? We don't know, but it's going to be, it's not going to be you get the 3 slots right away. You're going to unlock them over your progression, whatever that means. And the way mercenary works, the way you use them is that at the start of each fight, you'll be presented with a choice. You will either choose to play that encounter with your main character, or play the encounter with one of your mercenaries. That also implies that each mercenaries will have their own deck. So all of a sudden, when you're playing your character in the campaign, you will not only have to maintain one deck, you will have for your main character, and maybe a few versions of the deck depending on the dungeons that you want to clear. You will also need to have working decks for all your mercenaries. So up to 3, that means right there you have to maintain 4 deck lists for your for your main character in the campaign, and that's really awesome. I really, really like that. Hey, QW132377, how are you doing this morning? Thank you for joining, appreciate it. It's going to add so much Where's the spoiler? What spoiler are you referring to today? There's a ton of spoiler on the street, on the forums. I don't have a spoiler this week though. The coordination for the spoiler was mainly completed by Dinotropera, and I don't have, sadly, other spoiler for this week, but it does give me a good hope that we're going to get Adventure Zone 2 very, very soon. With the pace of the spoilers, the pace of the articles that have been going out recently is just crazy. Like 3 articles per week, official article, plus about 10 to 12 spoilers per week at this point, in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm very hopeful that we'll get Adventure Zone 2 before the end of the month at this point. All signs points to it, really. So I'm betting. I was if they're going to announce the release date for Adventure Zone 2, I'm guess they will give us more than just a week. So I'm crossing my fingers for an announcement for tomorrow, maybe, or this Wednesday. But we'll see. Yeah, back to the Mercenaries. So you will have to maintain a lot of deck lists, right? And that's awesome to me. That adds a lot of depth to creating a campaign character. Even when your max character has a deck list that you really like and you can clear all dungeons with it, you will still want to play to, if you're interested in the Mercenaries at all, use your Mercenaries, have good lists for them, and there's reasons why you would want to play Mercenaries. So let's just up on that, right? So Mercenaries for the deck list, you will have a grid. Each Mercenary will have its own grid for the deck building part. So you're not going to use the grid from your main character. Each Mercenary is going to have its own deck building characteristics. So for instance, Lobo here cannot use blood card, cannot use ruby cards, and it's 3 of each here and 2 of each artifacts. Each Mercenaries will have, when you play them, it's not when they are in your party, when you play them as for an encounter, they will all have an activated charge power like any champions would. They also all have a passive that affects the pace of the game. Each Mercenaries will also be upgradable. So when you will do dungeons in Adventure Zone 2, there will be special nodes in the dungeons. When you beat these nodes with Mercenaries, you will receive extra reward in terms of gold, and when you're able to beat these special encounters with Mercenaries with a single Mercenaries 3 times, you will then be able to upgrade your Mercenary to get a new power on top of what it already has. That power is only working when you actually play with the mercenary in an encounter, but it's going to drastically increase its power most of the time. So that would be a cool way to do it. To upgrade a mercenary, you will need to beat these special encounters with each mercenaries a few times, and then you're able to unlock them. And to unlock them, you need gold. Like in this example, this one costs 10,000 gold. We don't know yet if they all cost the same amount of gold to unlock. Maybe there's rarity amongst the mercenaries that makes it so that the rarer mercenaries cost more gold, for instance. It may be. We don't know yet. But even if it's 10,000 gold each, that's still not a small amount, right? So, and each mercenary also has a party passive. This will be a small buff that will affect your deck for the most part when you play them. So when you play your main character, if you have 3 mercenary in your party, you will have 3 party passive that will be affecting your game when you play your main character. And when you play a mercenary, you will not have his own party passive since you're playing it, but you will receive the party passive of the other mercenaries that you're not playing. So this is very interesting. Some are very small buffs. The ones that we've seen so far as it's very, very small, very subtle, things that you get. Some are very minor, some are a lot bigger. but well, I'd say not bigger, but more significant. And where that, there's right now, besides the new mercenaries that will be introduced with Adventure Zone 2, we have more than 40 known mercenaries in the game. So they're bound to have a few that will have a passive that will make things that will be significant. For instance, right now we have Ethereal Eater with its boot equipment that is extremely strong and works with health gain triggers. If there's any mercenary that give you like 50% chance, or maybe give you 1 health at the start of the game, something like that. It's very minor, right? Out of context, but if you're playing Ethereal Eater, getting an additional trigger before the start of the game, it's extremely good. So even though these passives seems to be underwhelming for now, keep in mind that there can be in the near future very cards with very weird equipment that make these powers extremely good. So very minor, very subtle effects in PvE needs not to be underestimated. They can all of the sudden with one card be game winning and be part of the best farming deck of the campaign. Most of them though won't be that way. Most of them would just be underwhelming. But it's important to keep in mind that even though they seems to be very small, they can make a huge difference. And since you can have 3, maybe you can have 3, party passive that are affecting your gameplay the same way. So even though they are small, you can compound them to have a significant, impact on your game every game, or most of the game. That could be it, right? Because this one, if we take this one as an example, at the start of the game, the top troop of your deck gets on the one of the following random: Crush, Life Drain, Steadfast, or +1 defense. First troop of your deck getting this bonus, it's not going to it's not going to change a lot of things, right? It's just a small modification, but it is a modification. So for instance, if at some point there's a lot of triggers on playing cards with modifications, all of the sudden, this one might just be very significant. So you never know, right? Is it likely to make a big impact on release? I don't think so, but it's nice to have this in your toolbox when you're building your PvE decks. So very, very cool. There's also deck building restrictions on some of these mercenaries. Like this one's, for instance, can include up to 4 copies of any Coyote troop, regardless of the grid. That mentions 3. And you can't include any Chenier troops in your deck. So, it's mostly thematical stuff, but at the same time, it's important to know that the mercenaries, they will have a grid, but they might also have special deck building rules that overrule the grid here. But for the most part, this is great. I mean, there's lots of depth to the mercenaries. First, there's a party passive. You want to stack the right party passive for your main character, but at the same time, if the special gold reward from the special mercenary nodes in the new dungeons are very significant, you will want to have at least one mercenary with a very, very strong deck, so that you can, when you do your dungeon run, you can use the mercenary on that encounter and then get the extra gold. Because if the bonus gold is big enough, it's going to be an integral part of farming gold in the new world of the Adventure Zone 2. So it's going to be very interesting. I hope that the bonus gold for the mercenary win will be significant, so that the best farming runs will use mercenaries. That's my hope. If that's the case, then there will be a lot of incentive to run good mercenaries in your party, even though if the party passive is not that great for your specific list. Pat item and not gold. Well, I don't agree with that. But if they could have special, mercenary equipment, that would be awesome. I would be in for that, no question. They didn't mention anything related to that though in the article, so maybe that's something they can release in the future. They also mentioned these are the 2 mercenaries that you will encounter, you know, depending if you're playing Underworld or Ardent in your campaign. You will encounter one of these 2, depending on what you're playing. And after the encounter, maybe a fight, maybe not, you will be able to add them to your party as your first mercenaries with your character. These 2 specific mercenaries, they come in with a deck list. They already have a deck, so when you get them, you can use them right away. They also, you know, these are the only mercenaries that we know so far that comes in with a deck. The other mercenaries will not have a deck. You will have to build a deck. But these since they're the first one that you get them with a stock deck that they provide with. So that's nice. Make sure they get you know, make sure that you can use them right away and start having fun with them. And this one here, this passive here, this is the example of a passive that can be extremely strong. At the start of the game, if you want a starting comp flip, gain a charge. Having an additional charge in the campaign at the start of the game is huge. It's very, very significant. It is likely one of the strongest. It is one of the strongest passive we've seen so far. Even though it only works on the play, it is one of the strongest passive we've seen so far. So this is really great, and I can't wait to see where we go with that. And there's, you know, once you unlock Katsuhiro and Augustine, you know, I don't think there's anywhere that mentions that once you have these 2 mercenaries, you cannot add them both in your party. So that when you're on the play, when you're on the draw, you gain a charge. When you're on the play, you gain a charge. So whatever you do, you always have an additional charge when you're starting the game. And I can very well see that these 2 mercenaries be part of a very strong farming list in the future, because it ensures that you have one additional charge whatever you're on the play or on the draw, and that's very powerful. If you're a lot of classes have, you know, low activation charge powers that are extremely good. If you're playing an Elf Warrior, for instance, having an extra charge at the start of the turn game is huge. It's absolutely huge. It's a lot of damage. If you're playing an Elf Ranger, it's ramp. If you're playing a Dwarf Ranger, it's, you know, preventing resources. There's tons of stuff. If you're playing a Wizard, having an extra charges is very, very good, because you want to have these extra I don't remember how they call these spell points, right? So that's great. And not to mention the Ranger. The Ranger has a 2-cost activation power. So if you can guarantee that you have an extra charge at the start of the game, then your charge power is activated on turn 1 every single game. And that's very significant, because you get your pet on the first turn every single game. That means on turn 2 you can attack with it. So this is an example of a party passive that seems unassuming, but they might very well just be one of the strongest combination of party passive you can get. I can very well see in the future having, you know, your max level character that wants to farm gold in Adventure Zone 2. You have these two mercenaries in your list, in your party, just for the passive, making sure that you have an extra charge every game. And you have a third mercenary that is your strong mercenary to clear out the mercenary nodes. So I really love the design. There's a lot of depth to it. There's tons of stuff to do. The only thing I would advise you guys is that, now, these party passives seems to be very unassuming, but they are deceptively good. I'm going to tell you right there. It's not even out. I didn't even play with the system, but I'm telling you, these are deceptively good. They're going to enable some crazy strategies. I 100% can attest to that. The other one here is the state of there's the spoiled a mercenary from the Kickstarter campaign. So this is a move. And yeah, this is another one, right? Before the start of the game, there's 25% chance you summon a Shrumpin. A Shrumpin, again, is very unassuming, but it is before the start of the game. If you have it before the start of the game, it can attack on turn 1. And if it can attack on turn 1, there's tons of very strong things that you can do on turn 1. So a combination of 3 mercenaries with party passive that have a chance to put something into play, with, say, a few ethereal healers in your build, all of a sudden you can start the game with like 2, 3, 4 troop in play. And it doesn't take much really they don't even have to have attack for them to be strong. If they can attack at all, if you have a ton of say I don't know, assault cards in your hand, you might be able to play. You might even be able to play a brute in play on turn 1, and that's at 4/3 on turn 1 after attacking for 3 or 4 damage. Just with that, it's an extremely aggressive start. So there's going to be tons of fun to have with the mercenaries, trying to find what's their best list, trying to find the best combination of mercenaries with your class to have a great farming deck. It's going to be awesome. It's just going to be awesome. Yeah, gold is always in there. The fact that they have a bonus gold, this was one of the only way they could make the mercenaries, make us really want to play mercenaries, is if they reward us from playing them. And the way they reward us is that they have special nodes that provide they mention a significant amount of additional gold. So if that's really the case, that will be why you want to have at least one strong mercenary in your party, that when you do the dungeons, you switch to your strong mercenary to get this additional gold. For the most part, we all expect that your main character at level 15 will be stronger than most mercenaries. That's just the way things are. There might be a few exception with the mercenaries. Xorath might just be that, but for the most part, I think it's safe to assume that your main character will be stronger than your mercenary, even more so at max level. But if there's an incentive to actually play your mercenaries for reward, that is gold, then that's the best possible incentive, because you play, you want more gold to be able to get to the auction house and get upgrade your decks. You want to have more gold to be able to buy packs to play PvP. You want to have more gold to be able to unlock other mercenaries. And you just want to have more gold all the time, right? To unlock alternate art card, to extend the art of the cards. Gold is the bread and butter of PvE, and you will need it for tons of stuff. And we don't even have very interesting gold sinks right now besides the Wheel of Fate. But I'm pretty sure that they will come up with something very, very great in the near future. In the Kickstarter campaign, I don't know if it was during the Kickstarter or maybe a bit later, they also mentioned that for the keeps, right, you would be able to upgrade them, and likely this would cost gold, and maybe you can have team guild decks that are in your keeps, and you want to unlock slots for that, and run a team gauntlet, and that will also require gold. So we didn't see the last of the gold economy. It's just starting. Right now we can't do much with it, but as soon as we have significant gold sinks that are sought up by players, that are needed for to unlock great things in PvE campaign, or to enable great mechanisms in the campaign, these extra gold from mercenaries might just be very significant. So I really like the fact that they're incentivizing us to run these mercenaries with gold. I really love it. I think that's the right way to do it. Well, not necessarily the right way. I'm not a game developer, but I think that is a very good way to do it. And yeah, we're going to have tons of fun with that. They've answered a question concerning gold in the last Ask update. Oh, that's nice. I will definitely need to review that. I don't think I reviewed the part 4 yet, so yeah, I didn't review part 4 yet. But I know I saw the question, if I remember correctly, was that someone asked about the gold sinks and faucets, and if they were happy with them and what is to come, something like that. It's like correct. Once you start, you can't stop. Well, true. That's mainly cosmetic. There's one scenario though where extended art does matter, and it is for a level 15 elf character. You get 2 charges at the start of the game for your champion power if I think it's like 30 cards in your deck are either rare, legendary, or extended art, or alternate art, something like that. So extended art too, if you're playing an elf, doesn't matter. So that's cool. That's one nifty piece of power there. And that's kind of free, right? If you have a lot of gold, then you extend all your cards. Even though you have a deck full of commons, you can take advantage of this power, and that could be very cool. But yeah, mercenaries are there. They're going to be insane. They're going to add tons of replayability. No, just leveling one character to the max level is not going to be enough. You will work on your mercenaries. The mercenaries, once they're unlocked at your account level. So when you create new characters, you will have access to the mercenaries that you unlocked or gathered in your inventory from other means. So the way it works is that if you create your first Adventure Zone character and you get Katsuhiro here, when you create your second character, when you reach the point in that character's storyline, in that character's campaign, when you reach the point where you can use the mercenaries, you will be able to use Katsuhiro right out of the gate. You don't need to unlock it another time with another character. And that's the same thing with all mercenaries you have in your inventory. As soon as as soon as your progression with your new characters come up to the point where you unlock the party, slots, you will be able to use any mercenaries that you have at that point. And if you upgraded one mercenary at one point, it means that it's upgraded whenever you use it, even with new characters, as soon as they have the mercenary slot in their party. It also means, they also mentioned in the article, that if the mercenaries are tradable, and even when you upgrade them, they don't become bind to your account. So when you upgrade them, it's a flag on your account that you upgraded Katsuhiro. You can sell your Katsuhiro to someone else, and at some point you get it back, and it will still be upgraded if you play it. But you need to have it in your inventory to use it. But if you lose it, you don't lose the upgrade. You just lose the capacity to use the mercenary. But if you get it back, from the person to which you lended it, or if you get it back from, you buy another one from the auction house, then you still keep the upgrade. You don't need to upgrade it every time you get it back, right? So that's a nice thing. I like that. Since we're investing gold to upgrade them, I could have seen them, tie the upgrade to the mercenary itself, but then it means that people that wants the upgraded mercenary doesn't need to play them. They just can buy the upgraded mercenaries. And I think it's better to have them, upgrade mercenaries at the account level. That means that, you won't be able to generate additional value for your mercenary since you upgraded it, in terms of, of the mercenary economy of trades. But I think it's still good. I like the fact that you actually need to play the mercenaries a few times to upgrade it no matter what. So if you're like me and you have all mercenaries that are in the game right now in your account, that doesn't mean that, if I want to use them upgraded, I need to play with them. And even if I have all of them, so that's nice. That's pretty nice. How many can from what I gathered, there's only one upgrade per mercenary. They can easily, create mercenaries with multiple upgrades in the future, but from the most part, what seems to be transpiring from the article is that mercenaries will have one upgrade. Each mercenary has one upgrade. And that's mainly, yeah, I think that covers everything that they mentioned with the mercenaries. This is a very, very big feature. It's going to add tons of replayability to Adventure Zone and the campaign. It's going to be awesome. I just can't wait to play the campaign. I'm so pumped. And I already started to work on mercenary list, on ranger list. We're going to have a blast with that. I can't wait to see the end game of this game. It's going to be insane. Seeing how good they're doing right now and all these added value to the campaign they're adding. Campaign is going to be one big entity in the game, and it's going to be insane. I really hope that the game keep getting more players and grow and become more just become better. Get them a lot of money so that they can invest it in the game and make this a real monster of a TCG, unlike TCG. But there certainly seems to be learning from the feedback from the community on the forums, on the events as well, and that's great. We're bolt mechanic, not yet. I'm doing the news in order. So right now we're only at November 7th. So there was a fully equipped article from Nico Sharp. He's our PvE specialist, so to speak. Very cool article, very cool deck that is centered around transforming things. So very interesting. As I mentioned earlier, Cosmic Crown Showdown top 8 deck lists are there if you want to see them. They are also on X-Meta. Mercenary Spotlight, single and ready to go. And ready to mingle. This is another article from Nico, showing another mercenary that is very specific in its power. But I think the party passive will be the most important thing to review for mercenaries at first. So at the start of the game, a random unique troop in your deck gets +1/+1. This is not. That's weird, right? There are ways to make sure that. Hey, morning, I stop people. What are you doing today, sir? It's not something that is game winning. You might not even draw your card that is improved. However, if there's only one legendary in your deck, you can ensure that it gets +1/+1, and maybe that's part of your strategy. So that's what I mentioned earlier. These are very narrow, very specific, very unassuming passive. But down the road, they can be one of the most powerful things to do in the game. So you really need to be careful about these. And there's a lot of context in the TCG. The game is extremely complex. We have thousands of cards. We have hundreds of equipment. And at some point, we'll have thousands of equipments as well. The permutation of the combinations that we can create is nearly infinite. You don't have enough time in your lifetime to play with all the combinations that the game provides you right now, as it likely is. So at some point, someone will figure out a way to break these passives. It's just a matter of time, right? At some point, they will release some weird card that is not good at all, but paired with this here power, it's going to be awesome. So, for instance, if at some point we have a legendary that that has an equipment that makes it so that when it is modified and in your deck, you just draw it, then all of a sudden, this passive ensures that you draw that specific legendary every single game. And that could be extremely good. So, right now it might just be very bad and you just don't want this mercenary in your party, but it might very well be an enabler for a future strategy. So that's why I like the mercenaries. I just love them. They provide very specific, very narrow bonuses that are very unassuming, but for the creative deck builders, these are great opportunities to break the game. Yep. I know, it's just, I'm talking in general as an example, right? That these passives is going to be very, very cool. Only a single troop on the battlefield, but grand special instead. Yeah, that's for the activation. That's for the only one here, but that's not for the party passive. They didn't mention that the party passive would change, from what I gathered. But yeah, also keep in mind that any spoilers that we have right now, they might be slightly changed when they come out. When we get a release of Adventure Zone 2. Of course, it's the same thing with the PvP spoiler, right? When we had Hero File spoilers, some of the early spoilers were early versions of the cards and were not the cards that we got in the game on release. And there was even cards, in the game like Dreamsmoke. No, not Dreamsmoke. The Dreamweaver. That when we saw in the preview card was extremely strong, and with the feedback of the community, they nerfed it before release because it would have been just super strong. And that's the same thing with Mercenaries, with every single card spoilers that we have right now. They might very well be changed when they release. And the good part about PvE is that they don't have the same stance with PvE that they have with PvP. In PvE, they can very well be changing equipment and cards in the middle of a season, in between release, and that's okay. It's not a competitive environment. There's no cash on the line, and they can modify cards as they want in PvE anytime they want. But even then, you know, these preview cards, they might be changed when we get to release. So just keep in mind, and this is the best example there. This is the perfect example there. So this is another one of Dino's list there. Really great article if you want to read it, and it does give some insight about, you know, on how to approach deck building when you're creating a campaign deck, because that's very different than, you know, generating a PvP deck. Another extremely great reveal that we had last week. We've had tons of news last week. It was crazy. We have had the tier 2 talents revealed for the warrior. So here it is. If you want to run it, this morning I don't have I just have 2 hours for the episode, so we're not going to do an in-depth warrior talent review as we did with the ranger. But know that there's 2 talents here that are extremely good. That if we would have these talents right now with our warriors to farm gold in the Adventure Zone 1, they would change the game, right? All trained troops have Steadfast and Swift Strike, and instead of having 25% of the troops in your deck train 50% of the troop. This is just insane. And keep in mind that trained troop before, right now, with warriors, they can have +1/+1 and speed. So 50% of the troop in your deck would have +1/+1 speed, steadfast, and swift strike. That's just insane. That's just insane. It's going to be extremely good. Extremely good. For the most part, yeah, they seem to have, even in the Ranger, there's, you know, many talents that seem to be, you know, incentivizing you to run 100 cards. And there's even a talent somewhere with a deck building requirement. Where is it? This one. Yeah, the condition in here. Plus this maximum deck size, so you need to have 70 cards in your deck if you choose that talent, and you gain 3 out. So they seem to be really playing with the outside of the box, right? Talents that have deck building restriction in the sense of deck size is really very exciting to me. Talents that create cards in your deck does also mention that if you have 100 cards, you get an additional, you know, copy of the card. And that's very significant, because 1 chance out of 60 is worse than 2 chance out of 100. So depending on the power of these cards, and if you can stack enough, you might end up with maybe there's a way to have a very competitive deck with 100 cards instead of 60. Not to mention that when you're playing the campaign, there might be significant encounters in the campaign where deck size matter. And at which point, having more cards is just better. So, very nice trick here. I can't wait to see what they do to incentivize us to create, you know, bigger decks. That's going to be awesome. And very good read. I strongly suggest you guys to go on and carefully read these talents. They're awesome. They're also adding talents with very big drawbacks. So that's something that I really like as well. And we'll see. And yeah, lots of stuff. The class gem for the warriors have been revealed as well with the tier 2 talent, and they're both insane. The major gem gives rage. Deploy rage equal to its attack. So 5 attack troop now gets rage 5. Essentially doubling the attack every time it attack. Doubling the attack the first time it attacks. It's just crazy. It's crazy good. Imagine a Runeer Hierophant with +1 attack and crush with the Warriors Majors of Berserky. So you get Hierophant on turn 3, it has 3 attack. On turn 4 you play a troop, it has 4 attack. And it attacks with Rage 3 at that point. So it attacks for 7. And you didn't do much, really. and you know, if it's a trained troop, because of the talents, it would have swift strike, speed, steadfast, whatever, right? It's just insane. There's going to be insane combination, and the minor gem for the warrior is trained, so this one is good as well. With the other talents, it means that this minor gems gives +1/+1 swift strike, steadfast, and speed. So this is, I don't think you will ever see a minor gem giving that much. Never in a long shot. So this is extremely good as well. Hey, hello Edwins, how are you doing today, sir? Welcome to the stream. Tons of great stuff with the warrior. They're very going towards the, you know, I'm going to go in the melee. I don't care about my health. I'm going to sacrifice my health to have, you know, an advantage in combat to win a fight. And this is really, you know, the flavor of the talents that we see for the tier 2. Even more so than the tier 1s that we had. So very, very great here. Very good thing. We've had an article, I think it's the second one, from Ali Eldrazi, regarding deck building and preparing for for a big tournament. So if you don't know, Ali Eldrazi is a very prominent player in the MTG scene. He's a pro player as well, part of the Pro Tour. At least he was until recently, if I'm not mistaken. So very great read. I think we rarely, you know, get to have access to these minds, right? The best player in the world for TCGs, and this is a very good article to read to understand, you know, how to prepare for big tournaments and what are the key things you want to keep in mind. So very great read. I strongly suggest that anyone interested in Constructed should read this. Well, even if they don't stack, right, Renter, that's still, you can still get the bonus, and still it's affecting 50% of your deck. Even if you get 2 train trigger on the same troop, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't remove any other train trigger on other troops, so there's really no downside. It's just not a downside. It's a wasted proc of trained, but then again, it procs, it has 50% chance to proc on every card, so it's not really a downside. You just ensure that you get it. Yeah, true. Well, you could, maybe you could label some of the decks that do have some amount of success to be combo decks. Right now, the meta is just too diverse to have a dedicated control deck, and we quite frankly just have the right tools for that. So hopefully with set 6, we'll get the tools for a nice control deck, but at the same time, this is a very LT meta with a ton of different decks, so not having control is sad, but I'd rather have a well-diverse meta without control than to have a very defined meta with 2 decks and a control deck being one of them. So, and if we can have everything, that's nice. But, you know, if history, you know, tells us anything, is that when you have a well-diverse meta, it is very rare in TCGs that to have a successful control deck in these meta. It is very rare. Because a control deck, you need to know what you're controlling. And every card in your deck is, the purpose is to control a specific, control the game in a specific way. So if the meta is very diverse, you won't be able to control everything, and you will get run over. So, and this is exactly what's happening right now. The aggressive decks are king. The slightly bigger aggressive decks tends to be the slightly lower, you know, smaller aggressive decks. Then the aggressive mid-range decks tends to be, you know, a bit bigger aggressive mid-range deck tends to be the smaller aggressive mid-range deck. And the aggressive decks tends to be the bigger mid-range decks because they're too slow. As is the cycle of life for the TCGs. Next update that was revealed last Friday, and this is another very big one, and I think this for everyone in the community, this was a surprise, really. And the new well, if I'd have to mention one thing about Eldrazi and his deck, is that Eldrazi is a known control player. He favors control a lot, and he has an extremely good experience with control. He's one of the best in the world at playing control. So, and playing control involves a metric ton of very key decision that if you take the wrong one, you will lose. So, although he seemed to be winning every single game when he plays these control decks, and the only one that he loses really is the ones where he has bad end. It's very hard for another player to emulate that. You can just take the list, but I don't think a lot of players in the XTCG community can even start to claim to be in the same ballpark as good as him playing control decks, and that's really something to keep in mind as well. And that is one of the reasons why you don't see that deck in the top 8 of the tournaments right now. Because these decks, to be able to be very proficient with them and win consistently with them in a very well diverse meta, you need to be extremely good. And there's not a lot of players that can do that. And the players that can do that might not even want to play these decks because of a lot of reasons. So yeah, next one was the Set Sail article on last Friday, and that's very interesting. So one of the things that they're adding with the Adventure Zone 2 is a boat feature. So when you're exploring Adventure Zone 2, there will be a part of it that will be a sea, where when you want to move through the sea, you will need to use your boat, because you can't just walk on the water for the most part. I'm pretty sure it's possible with some gems, and gems, but you know, you will at some point you will acquire a boat. You will be able to upgrade your boat, and while you're cruising on the seas, you will, when you enter a fight, you will be using your boat. You won't be using your champion. You will be using your boat for the fight. So what it means is that essentially the boat is the equivalent of having another character. So as with the Mercenaries, right? You have a party, you have your main character, you have up to 3 mercenaries in your party. You will also have a boat. And when you're playing on the sea, when you're starting an encounter, you won't have your champion power, your class power. You will have your boat with its own powers and its own health in the form of a hull for your boat. So that's really interesting. It's the equivalent of having a fifth character, so to speak. So, and that's really exciting. And the boat will be using your racial grid for the deck building restrictions. There's a few things that will not work with boat. Like I said, the health of a boat is measured in terms of its hull size. So life gain, things of the sort, will not really work. The boat's hull or health will be carried over from encounter to encounter. So when you're at port, you will start, say, with 17 hull, and you do your first fight, maybe you lose 2 or 3 hull. Then you start the next fight, you will start the next fight with 14 hull instead of 17. And at some point you might run up to 0. And when that happens, what I mentioned is that you just go back to the port to repair your boat, and then you go back again. And that's really interesting, right? It's like the bolt mechanism would be outside of a dungeon, but it feels like its own kind of soft dungeon, right? It's really, really, really cool. And and it's really interesting. They mentioned here the bolt will have will have talent points, and there will be 4 lanes of progression. 1 for the crew, 1 for the hull, 1 for the banner, and 1 for the cannons. The cannons will be providing with additional passive activation power that have cooldowns. The banner will provide with some buffs and activation powers as well. The hull is all about the HP of the bolt, so to speak, and with some talents to even have ways to recover some of the hulls every fight, after every fight that you win. The crew part is a way to get troops in play at the start of the game, not before. So this is something we discussed last week, right? There's a difference between before the start of the game and at the start of the game. Things that are in play before the start of the game can attack on the first turn when you are in the play. But things that are in play at the beginning of the game, you cannot attack with them on the first turn on the play. Because they were not in play before the first turn, they were in play at the first turn. Just a slight thing to keep in mind, but at the same time, the first mate and the quartermaster talents here are there to get something in place from your deck. So first mate really is the key one, because right now we have one card in the game that really bust this talent here. So first mate is the third one in the crew part. It reads, you begin the game with it's weirdly worded right now. That's an error. You being the game, it's not the right phrase here, but essentially you start the game with a random uncommon troop with cost 2 from your deck into play. Now, I don't know if you know about War Party Guide in PvE with its legendary head equipment, but what happens is that War Party Guide is a 2/1 diamond troop, single diamond threshold troop that with Swift Strike, that when it attacks, you if the first card of your deck is an Ardent troop, you put it you draw it into your hand. Now with its legendary head equipment, what happens is that it looks at the top card of your deck. If it's an Ardent troop, it puts it into play and then do it again. So if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Ardent troop on the top of your deck, you attack with your War Party Guide, and you put every single one of them into play in sequence while attacking. Now, this is extremely strong, but you need to have a lot of Ardent troop in your deck. However, this first mate talent here ensures that if your only 2 cost uncommon in your deck is a War Party Guide, you will start with the War Party Guide in play. And on your if you're on the draw on your first turn, you can attack with a War Party Guide. And if the rest of your deck is 59 Ardent troop that doesn't cost 2 and are not uncommon, on your first attack, you will dump your whole deck into play. Just right there, straight up, dump your deck into play. So, there are ways to manage it. They might even just nerf the equipment. But yeah, this is something that was, straight out of the gate. I think many of the PvE enthusiasts like myself, when we read when we first read the talent, we were like, wait a minute, can we do that? And yeah, it's going to be interesting what they decide to do this. There are ways to go around it. There are ways for them to make us unable to do something with it. So, if your deck is 55 Ardent troop without any resources, if the AI just destroy your troop from the first, at the start of the game, then you're screwed. You just lose the game straight up. So it's very all in. But yeah, I think a lot of us are expecting some kind of modification to the War Party Guide's equipment because of this talent, or maybe they would change this talent for something else. But I'd much rather have the talent stays the same and the headpiece equipment being changed if it's too powerful. It really feels extremely good right now, but we'll see. There's the other quartermaster talent point is the same thing. At the start of the game, put a random rare troop with cost 1 from your deck into play, and this is very, very significant. There's a lot of rare troops with 1 cost that are extremely good, that can be centric to a very specific strategy, and this is what's really nice with this bolt thing, is that these talents are extremely good. And Captain Sparrow here is just insane. Let's just call it insane. This is the bird of paradise of Vex, right? At the beginning of the game, you begin the game with a Captain Sparrow in play. 1 cost, 0-1 with flight, gain 1 temporary resource on exhaust, and 1 shot when you play an action copy it. It's just insane. Insanely strong. You start the game with it and play. It's just crazy. This is crazy good. That talent tree here is by far the strongest. It's going to enable all sorts of crazy, insane combos, but for the most part, I can't wait to play with the bolt. It's going to be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of notes on the sea, and what they mentioned in the article is that it's not a straight line. For those who doesn't want to partake in the battle of the sea, they will be able to just go straight to the next destination on land, and for the most part, just do maybe a few encounters with their boat and just leave it at that. And there will be a soft waypoint save system so that if you really not interested in this feature, just basically skip it for the most part. But if you're interested in it, what they mention is that you will be able to do multiple nodes in one go, and they mention special rewards as you win more encounters with your boat. So there will be special reward for going on the sea and going as long as you can without having to come back to the port. And that is going to be awesome. It's like having the boat is like a dungeon on its own, really. It's like repeatable fights, and you need to go as deep as you can. It's like somewhat of a rift from Diablo 3, when you think about it, right? It's going to be very, very cool. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Maybe you're not even going to be able to pay True's Walker power since you don't have health, you have hull. So there's a lot of stuff that are unknown right now regarding the boat. It changes one of the fundamental mechanisms of XTCG, which is having health. So there's a lot of cards that interact with health that might not even be playable. Straight up unplayable with with the deck that you built for your boat. So it's going to be very interesting to know how they implement it. But these talents seems to all be fairly powerful. I wouldn't be surprised if the boat encounters are amongst the hardest in Adventure Zone 2 overall. I do like the fact that your boat uses your races grid as well. That means that a dwarf boat will be very different than a coyote boat, for instance, because you won't have access to the same shards. So that's going to be pretty interesting there. And yeah, they really mentioned, so the boat mechanism here really feels like a dungeon, like a semi dungeon on its own right. It's like a progression mechanic with only the boat, with special rewards for going as long as possible while you're at sea. I really love this. And between the boat and the 3 mercenaries, it means that your character in the campaign would have to maintain what, 5 decks? This is insane. That's a lot of decks. That's a lot of cards to maintain. It is going to add immense depth to the campaign. You're going to play the campaign for a very long time with one character. And this is where I really hope that they would go. That it is essentially an MMO, and having one character with everything unlocked and everything boosted, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and you're very unlikely to be able to have all your character slots filled with characters that are maxed in boats, in mercenaries, and in characters levels. So I know that there's a lot of frown from the community for them only adding 2 character slots, but I'm of the opinion that in the end, will it really matter that much? I think for the great majority of the players, it will not matter that much. But I also, if I would be able to get 1 character slot per character combination, I would be thrilled. But even if I would get that, would I be able to max every single race class combination? There's no way I have the time to do that. So I'm fine with limited character slots. just you know, it's something we'll have to live with. And they're very keen to listen to community feedback as well. So if more players do put constructed criticism on the forums and provide these to the community managers, maybe would be able to sway their decision into providing us with more character slots in the future. And they might very well be adding a gold sync in the future, that is, pay X amount of gold, unlock a new character slots. That would be very cool as well. So, you know, other things to consider there. It's not set in stone. They can easily change it. They can easily create a gold sync with it. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff can happen there. Let me just keep track of chats real quick here. How many boat talents point we can get? Yeah, I think it's very fair to assume that you will not be able to max every single lanes here for your boat, so you would have to choose at some point. Well, that's something to consider as well. It is removed from your armor. Well, you know, there's multiple ways to do that. I don't think they definitely answered that question, Shatadog, unless you can. Maybe you can link a reference to the official answer for that question. That would be great. But from the last time I read the forums, they didn't specifically answer that question about the all being able to use to be able to use it to pay health costs. Your boat, you will have a hull instead of your health. Having hull instead of your health doesn't mean that you can use your hull to pay cost that requires health, though. Because they mentioned that the hull replace your health, but it's not health, right? So it would be, you know, it's not a big deal. It would be interesting to see how they implement it. They could very well go either way. They could go, you know, in a direction where you cannot use the hull for, you know, health payment activation, or you could very well be using it and that's it, right? But the both are very logical way to approach this, and they can both very well be implemented easily. So we'll see which one they favor when we got the Adventure Zone 2 release. But for the most part, right now we don't know, and that's fair. I mean, it's a small thing. It's very hard right now to prepare decks for the boat because we have, you know, even though it was revealed here, we don't have any technical information on how it really works and what kind of difficulty we'll be facing. So, you know, not knowing the answer to this question at this point in time is just perfectly fine. There's no problem with it. Well, when we find it, and then we can make decks for the boats. I think that right now with the Mercenaries being spoiled, we have our end full if we want to prepare for Adventure Zone 2. That's no question there. So well, that's the thing, right? If you don't have health, does this mean that they cost nothing, or does that mean that you just cannot activate them? That's two very different things, and they can both be very well be implemented. So we'll see when we get our hands on it, if it works. You know, which way it works. But either way, I would be fine with that. I don't think, to be honest, to be perfectly fine, I really, really strongly doubt that they would go down the road saying, well, you don't have health, so you can activate Revenant's power infinitely without any downside. The same thing for Drew's Walker. I'd be extremely surprised if they would let us freely activate Drew's Walker or Revenant in PvE in our boat. That would flabbergast me if they do that. That's my personal take on this one. I would prefer by a long shot that they do not do that, and that just say that these cards, they don't work. The same way that they're saying any live game card right now just doesn't provide you with any benefits. So if you're playing a card that gains you health, it doesn't do anything. So if that's the case, I think that the logical way to do it is just to say that, well, cards that ask you to pay life doesn't work either. But we'll see. I mean, it's a small thing. It's a small detail. It will of course matter when we're doing that building for the for the campaign, but at the same time, it's just it's a smaller details. But tons of stuff this week. So since last stream we got the Mercenaries revealed, we've got the Warrior T2 revealed, we've got the set sail revealed. So that's just insane. That's a metric ton of news within a week, with all of their spoilers that were spoiled with streamers. We've got a few Mercenaries spoiled. We've got tons of stuff, you know, cards spoiled. We've had 3 major articles that came out in a very short amount of time. So all things seems to be pointing out to the fact that that we are going to get Adventure Zone 2 pretty soon. When they're about to delay things, they usually, you know, keep the pace a bit, slower than that. I mean, with the pace at which they've been revealing things, for the most part right now, unless they reveal a brand new mechanism or a brand new feature of Adventure Zone 2 that wasn't hinted yet, we only have the Cleric Tier 2 talent to be revealed and the Mage's Tier 2 talent to be revealed. So there's 2 things, right? From everything that they announced so far, unless they reveal new unannounced things, we only have 2 major articles coming up. One is the Mage Tier 2 talents, and one is the Cleric Tier 2 talents. And after that, Adventure Zone 2. And they're releasing 3 major articles per week right now. So, say tomorrow we get either Mage or Cleric, and Wednesday we get the other one, and Friday we get a release date? Maybe? 3 of the 4 dungeons. Well, I don't think they will be really spoiling the dungeons, to be honest. They want to keep the surprise on these. I really don't, you know, they shown us early sketches in the past few months, but nothing very specific to the dungeons, and I don't think they will reveal a dungeon. I'd be surprised before the launch. We could, but I'd be surprised. I'd honestly be surprised. I think that if there's one part they want to keep it in it's the dungeon. They want to keep it surprise. They want you to be, oh crap. You know, the first time I ran the Devonshire Keep, I went, you know, I went to the dungeon, and at some point there's a room, and if you inspect it, you get an encounter, right? And then there's another room that if you don't expect, if you inspect it, you don't have an encounter. And I encountered the first one and was like, okay, so the last one I inspected and I got a very hard encounter since it was the first time I ran it. I was like, okay, I get the other one. I said, haha, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to inspect the room. I'm just going to go straight. And then I ended up falling into a trap. And that's pretty cool, right? Of course, after the first time, you don't have that. But I really love my experience for the first time. And I was game by the game, game by the system that made me choose the wrong thing and fall into a trap. And I really like that. So I would prefer for them not to spoil the dungeons at all. And that's my own personal preference, but I like that. Not even story, I mean, even, cool mechanisms for the dungeon. I think that this part should not be revealed. I would prefer for this part not to be revealed. Any other mechanics, like how the Adventure Zone 2 works, how the new mechanisms like the Mercenaries, things of the sort, I completely like to have them spoiled. It's not, that's generating hype, looking forward for new things, new mechanisms, new features of the game. I really like, but the dungeons themselves, that's something nice, and to a certain degree, I would prefer them not to reveal all the C nodes work and how many they have, how repeatable they have. That's the thing, right? But there's tons of stuff. You know, the end of the story here, the conclusion is that look at how much new content we'll have. Just take Adventure Zone 1 with Mercenaries would have tons of replayability. If they would add mercenary nodes in the dungeons without, you know, getting Adventure Zone 2 out. I feel that with what we read about the set sail article, I feel that if they would release this for Adventure Zone 1, we'd have tons of replayability to Adventure Zone 1 without having new content. Well, this would be new content, but without having a new zone, right? But we're getting a new zone, 4 new dungeons, the mercenaries, the boat. That's insane. That is a lot of content. I you know, just with one character, unlocking most of the mercenaries, getting to max level, doing the boat side quest kind of thing. I'm pretty sure it would take upwards of 20 hours to get all this done, and this is with one character. So if you're interested in having, you know, multiple characters, this update represents, you know, easily you know, it can easily represent upwards of 100 hours of play, and that's just great. That's a lot of stuff. That's tons of stuff. That's insane. That's going to be awesome to be playing XPV now. Ghost Sentinel. Just wait for him to ads after a week. Only a 1 week gameplay. That sucks. Yeah. But that's the thing with these games, right? I think people mostly overestimate Adventure Zone 1 because it's the introduction to PvE. It wasn't meant to be endgame. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't meant to be that replayable for the most part. You've got multiple characters, but that's mainly it, right? We had the Frost Ring Arena that was just most efficient to farm gold. So, and the rewards in Adventure Zone 1, there's a few good cards, but since our characters have so limited grids for deck building, it's hard to, you know, take great advantage of one of the legendaries or one of the rares, because you can add so few to a deck at this point because of the character level cap. But a lot of that will change with Adventure Zone 2. Since the character cap will go up, the deck limitation will go up, and then will be maybe, you know, for some of the characters, some of the races will be able to use, you know, 3 copies of a rare, and then we're in a, you know, at 3 copies, we're starting to be in a space where you can really build a strategy around the card, because 2 copies is really hard if you want to win games, you know, relatively fast. So having 3 copies of rare is going to make things a lot more interesting. Even, you know, if we'd have fully unlockable grid in Adventure Zone 1, there would be tons of territory crafting to do. But right now we kind of can't do it really, and having one more class is going to add tons of stuff. But yeah, I think that the replayability level of Adventure Zone 2 is going to be on another plane of existence compared to Adventure Zone 1, just because of the context and the fact that we'll get, you know, hopefully content that is a lot harder. The fact that they're removing dungeon lives seems to point out in a direction where encounters is going to be a lot more harder than they were before, because now they can make insane encounters, insanely hard encounter. They can, because you don't have dungeon lives, so you're not penalized. And if they want to add very you know, bigger dungeons, that's even more interesting, right? Because if you have lives in a very long dungeon, there's a lot of opportunity to lose life, and at some point you want to create harder content, but you're kind of limited because you don't want a player to 9 times out of the 10 just crash and burn before the end and not receive the dungeon loot, right? There are ways to go around that, but I think that removing the dungeon lives is really a nice thing, and I really think that it enables them to create very hard content, very hard dungeon bosses that will just take a few try to beat, even if you have a good day. And it just means that you don't get the nice bonus at the end. So the nice perfect clear bonus at the end. And that's there's no question. The amount of replayability to Adventure Zone 2 is going to be through the roof. And I really hope that there's some very, very rare drops, like legendary mercenary drop that drops in dungeons. That would be a very real reason to farm a dungeon, because getting the cards is something, but getting mercenaries, that's something else, right? Mercenaries you can use, it affects multiple decks. It's another way to affect your deck building that's outside of having cards. So this is really great. And they have, what is nice with the mercenaries is that they have a very wide space to work, a very wide design space there. Mercenaries in upcoming releases for PvE can have, 2 passive, they can make ones with 2 upgrades, they can make mercenaries that combines, like if you have that other mercenary and this one, the power combines to have a stronger one. There's a ton of stuff they can do with mercenaries that will make the game very, very cool in the near future. This year's 2017 for PvE is going to be a great year. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and that's another thing, right? One of the, and I spoke about it last week on the episode, is that the way it feels right now, looking at what they're releasing for Adventure Zone 2, it really feels like they learned from the feedback that we provided them with Adventure Zone 1, and they're smoothing things out. They are adding, of course, a ton of replayability. Their approach to classes to make them different seems to be very, very good right now, and we'll see how they go, but it's really thrilling. Of course, it doesn't. Everyone has different tastes and different things that they value, and some won't like the changes, but I feel like for the most part, they are very positive in global, and they should bring in more players to the game, and that's a very good thing. You think that playing different mercenaries on different specific battle would maybe open different dialogue or different, that's very something that would be very cool. Like if the mercenaries that you have in your party would affect all the storyline evolve with the quest, and even if it would just be the dialogue, to have different dialogue depending on the mercenaries that you have, it would be so nice. And that's something that you can easily do. We don't know if it will be in the AZ2 patch yet, but it can certainly well be something that they add in the future to add more depth and more personality to the mercenaries. That would be so nice. I mean, there's so many things that they could do with that. It's shaping up to be a full-on MMO, and of course, right now we don't have the the MMO part, the interaction between player parts. But I'm pretty sure this will come in with the keeps, the strongholds, and with raiding. And once we have these 2 parts for PvE, things are going to be great. Hopefully we get them by the end of the year, but right now it feels like the PvE team here at HEXperience is doing a fantastic job bringing us new content, and I can't wait to test it. Of course, we might be, it might be very, very bad in the end. Maybe the implementation will be so bad that the content is not really great, and we just run it one time and it's not, you don't have a lot of incentive to do it. But the one thing that I really like with Adventure Zone 2, and I really hope that they don't, I talked in the past that I hope that they upgrade the Frustrating Arena as well. But thinking about it a bit more, I think it would be very, very positive if they just don't upgrade Frustrating Arena. So that, because right now, if you want to farm gold, you can farm Tomb of the Rose Knight, and it's close to being equivalent of farming Frustrating Arena. And I think it's safe to assume that the harder dungeons that we get with Adventure Zone 2 will reward more gold than the dungeons that we have right now, in proportion. So if we have a good farming dungeon with Adventure Zone 2, that means that it will likely provide more gold per hour than doing the Frustrating Arena. And I would really like that, the best place to farm gold would be in the campaign instead of the Frustrating Arena. That incentivizes people that want to farm gold to play the campaign, build a character, get the best, the best mercenaries possible, the most optimal ones, and try to rack up some gold. And that will require a significant amount of efforts in PvE, and that's great news. And then you could have people specialized in PvE that doesn't play PvP much, and farm a lot of gold and get all the cards that they need, and maybe start doing some limited because they have so much gold, and that would be very cool. I mean, but maybe. Oh, that's true, and that's another thing, right? There's nothing to say that maybe there are fights where we will be able to control all our mercenaries. We will be able to control 4 different decks fighting one boss. That would be awesome. That would be so cool, and that will incentivize having strong mercenaries in your party instead of just having mercenaries in your party for their passive. And that's something that they can do both, right? They can do nodes that. They can do mercenaries with very strong passive but with very bad deck building restrictions, so that you kind of want to use them for the passive, but in the end you might have to fight with these mercenaries because the boss is so strong, it asks you to fight with all decks at the same time or in a sequence, and maybe the passive is good but you can't really add the mercenary because it's not strong enough to fight the boss, and that opens up so wide of a range for them to work with. That's just insane. The things they can do with mercenaries is just limitless, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a cool time. I'm hopeful. I think that seeing how X Entertainment works right now, they're really improving their product very regularly with patches, and they started to pick the pace with the PvP releases. They seem to be going in the right direction with PvE. If we can get the same kind of pace with PvE than we have for PvP right now, and having a PvE release every 4 months or something like that, alongside with a 4-month release rotation for PvP, the game in 1 year is going to be a significantly different game than what we have right now in our hands. And the year after that is going to be significantly different. And that's part of the vision of Corey, providing us with new content, new things to do every single month. And that's something that he repeated multiple times in his interviews. So I think that's where they want to go. Will they be able to achieve that? That's another question. But right now, I think that we have good signs that they're going in the same direction that they told us that they would want to go. And, this will be the first PvE release in a very long time, but if the next one comes in, before March, April, something like that, we might, if they can keep the pace with PvE and PvP, we're going to have one hell of a game in our hands right now. Let's just hope that they get the revenue, revenue from that to justify them continue to bring in this content and bring in more developers to get more content on a regular basis. That would just be awesome. Frustrating Arena would need an update. I would love a Frustrating Arena update. What I meant is that I really hope that you play the Frustrating Arena for the specific rewards that you can get in it and not to farm gold. I really hope that the best way to farm gold is in the campaign, not in the Frustrating Arena. But I really like the idea of having a separate PvE experience that provide different rewards that you can only get there. I think that would be the best way to do it. At the very least, that's the way I would prefer them to go with that. One thing people want to rate is the thing holding raids back. Most hex need to good way to handle 1 and 2 players at once. Yeah, that's the thing, right? And they mentioned it a lot of the time. Playing, and if you ever play TCG with teams like Two-Headed Giants, for instance, games can get long very, very quickly, very fast. So having a very good way to handle multiple player playing at the same time is the key. Once they figure that out, we're going to have one hell of an experience. But That's the hard part, and I'm not sure. You know, they did not indicate yet that they found a way to handle this that they like. So we're going to wait on that. I much prefer them to delay the feature as long as possible to have a strong one implemented than to have a poor one implemented early. And it worked really well at Blizzard. And I know that they have the insane funds to do that, but at the same time, I like the approach of X right now. They're not rushing Kickstarter promises. They're rolling them out one by one, and they're changing them to make sure that they're the best possible for the game instead of just, you know, answering the promises that they made during the Kickstarter. I love the approach. I think that's the right one. It adds delays though, and we might lose a significant amount of players because of that. But in the end, if it makes the game great, and it makes it so that the game has a good growth, then that's a good thing. That's just a good thing. Overall, if the game is growing, if the player base is growing, and they're, you know, starting to keep up the pace with content release, it means that the decisions that they made were the right one in the end. Even if we lose a portion of players, if we get more players in, that's just better for the game overall. Obviously, you know, of course you want to keep the player base, but that you already have, but there's always going to be turnaround, and there's no way avoiding that. Many things implemented. I'd be worried that they delayed something easy. Co-op. They have to make. Yeah, but at the same time, co-op versus AI might be the groundwork for rating. So it might just be, you know, they will test their rating mechanisms or their rating, you know, code with being able to fight multiple, you know, to use your mercenaries in a fight. And once they iron this out with the multiple mercenary against one AI, for instance, maybe they can implement the full, you know, player multiplayer experience. There are no vision easy and bring enough player to think that the flower remains a niche PvP game to me. Right now it is. Right now it's a niche PvP game for sure. There's no question that. But they are investing in PvE, and their vision for the game is for it to be a fully fledged MMO. So when they reach that point, the game will be two things. But in the meantime, they needed PvP first, because that's how you bring the current player base. And I think that was the right way to approach it. But at the same time, if they have a strong PvE experience, this will bring a lot of casual players. And once they played a lot into PvE, they know the game mechanics, they know the cards, they would be interested in X. And then they start looking at PvP, and maybe they have enough gold to buy some packs and starting to try and draft. And if they like that, then they invest even more into the game. That's how it works. There's more players playing the game now that when AZ1 came out, and AZ2 gets good response, it can be big mouth to mouth. Yep, I completely agree with that. X haven't been late on anything, so they've been slow but not late. I think I like that sentence well timed. I really like it. They've been slow in releasing content. They've not been late. They've been very close to late though with the set 4. But but the set 5 really came in at the right time, and if they continue that pace, they're going to be in a good spot. The player base is growing with each content launch. That's their statement right now. Yeah, and we have no ways to know that, right? We have no way to know what's the actual player base. There's few, you know, indications, metrics that you can use though to track how well X is doing. If you go on X tournament, for instance, you can track the number of drafts that are being played each week. So if you track that number, you can see if the number of drafts being played each week or each month is actually increasing or not. That could be an indication of an increased player base. It cannot be a straight up indication, but that's a hint, right? If you see that the amount of draft being played is increasing, that might just be that we're getting an increased player base, and I'm pretty sure you can track the number of ladder matches being played. And if there would be a way to track the amount of PvE being played, you could just accurate these metrics and try to have a good indication if we're going to if we're having an increased player base or not. PV. Oh, chat is going crazy right now. Let me just. I'll try to keep track here. Player base. PV has never lived up to what I personally hoped it would. Yeah, right now it's not nearly close to what I hope it can, what I think it could be right now, but they're certainly progressing toward that vision. So that, to me, that's enough for now. But I'm very patient, and I do understand that it's not the case for everyone. Playing these benefits that they are a very small company yet. They are, but hopefully they're growing. And that's the thing, right? They've been constantly hiring since the beginning, so that's a good sign. When you see no position to be filled at X Entertainment on their site, that's going to be a sign that the shit hit the fan and that we're in trouble. I spend more on X than every other AAA combined for the past 3 years. If they can't deliver AAA content for that amount of money, then they've left me as a customer. That's an unfair statement, I feel, Strawman, because the thing is that you as a player that spend a lot of money on a game, it's a drop in the ocean, right? You need to have a lot of players spending money on the game, and one player spending a lot of money on a game, in the end, it would be extremely unlikely that you spend so much money that you make a difference in their quarterly results, right? If everyone in the game would spend a crazy amount of money, that would make a crazy difference, and then they can have the resources to bring out more content, as it is with the big companies. But keep in mind that big AAA companies, right now, they don't tend to generate that many new content for their games as they are. They just create a new game a few years later, and they don't do quite the supports that they have. And I'm excluding the WoW, the Blizzard company right there, because they have infinite money at this point. League of Legends and Dota 2, the way that it works is that they're generating new content very regularly. And the X model is the same thing, right? But they need to have a lot of money from a lot of players. So one player, giving them a lot of money is a good thing. It's just a good thing. But you need to have, a lot of players doing that for it to make a huge difference for them. And I think that, they've been hiring, they've been growing, they've been increasing the pace at which they're providing PvP sets. And now they're bringing a nice PvE update. And I feel that 2017 will be a key year for them, in the sense that the first 3 years they were, setting place. They were settling in. They started to make regular content. They started to make regular tournaments. They introduced the ladder. And now we're at a point where the game exists. The game has its own pace. And now they need to maintain the pace. They need to bring out content regularly. And this is the big test right now. This is where it's a make it or break it, right? Because it's a great game. It has good content right now. But a game like that will only survive if it delivers regular, great content. And this is the test. 2017 will be the test for the game. If we can go through 2017 and have regular content release that they can maintain, it will be a strong indication that the game is healthy and that the game will thrive in the future. But if they don't make their deadline, and there's a lot of problems, this is where a lot of people will lose faith in the game, and this is where they will lose momentum. So they build a great game. They need to gain the momentum by steadily releasing content, and if they can maintain that for a year, and then you can accelerate the pace and invest in the game even more, and convince investors to invest in the game as well. But there's a lot of Kickstarter promises that are great, that if implemented would mean a lot, and I think we're progressing. Two QA department each, which a larger staff than all of the entertainment department combined, but we're working with a small team. Yeah, that's the thing. But hopefully, they are a small company. They are an indie company. X is an indie company, so way more organized this year, and we had 2 PvP sets. Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. We I wouldn't consider myself ex-apologist for Fireboy, but it's interesting following small companies. Yeah, and it's nice to be there at first, right? It's nice to be there at first as well. There's no date for the Adventure Zone 2, but it should be announced fairly soon. If they're releasing it early December or late November, this week or next week should be the release date announced. If we don't get it before the end of next week, I think that's a bad sign for the release this year. Should with gas-powered gaming something massively slow it down? Yeah. The EZ2 is out this year. There's, I think, we have every indication right now that EZ2 will be out very soon. As I mentioned, the pace at which we receive content is extremely fast right now. They did not speak about any holdups. And from all, in the release statement, when they announced Adventure Zone 2, there was a number of features for Adventure Zone 2 that they mentioned that they would bring out, right? And if we look at the list right there, Mercenaries, Ranger class, new level cap, new zone, new dungeon. They spoke about the new zone, they spoke about the boat, we saw the Ranger class, they spoiled the Mercenaries, they even spoiled the new talents that would be the new level cap. So, and they shown us that we had 4 dungeons and we saw the the dungeon packs and we know their names. And I really doubt that they will spoil the dungeons themselves. So we're very close to have been we're close to a full reveal of these features right now. Full eye level reveal, not in detail, but eye level reveal of all these features. I'm pretty sure that if they, the way I see it is that if they delay the release, we will start to see dungeon sneak peeks every week to make us, wait, to buy our patience, so to speak. But I think that we're in for a fast release right now. I think that we have every indication that we're going to get a fast release instead of a slow one. Same thing with Herofall. Remember Herofall? We had a short, the spoiler season start, we were overflowed with spoilers for like 3 weeks, and then bam, we got Herofall very quickly. So I'm hopeful that this is the same thing. We're getting, at the very least, we're getting the same signs right now that we're going to get a fast release. So that's a cool thing right there. And they didn't update their roadmaps yet. So the roadmaps was getting Herofall out, getting the next piece of PvE content out, then set 6. So and there's a lot of things, new things with set 6 as well, with the first set rotation that we will get in X, and there will be a big test to X as well. So that's something very interesting there. Yeah, we're getting Kraken Skull and Junkyard Dungeon, so you could consider that they've been touched or revealed or a bit spoiled there as well. Remember the full game? I don't like full game, right? Because it's really, right now we have the full game. We have tournaments, we have sets, we have PvE, and a game like that will never be full. There will always be new content. There will always be new releases that adds to the game, new mechanics. It's hard to consider a game like that fully released. The same way, World of Warcraft, it's really hard to consider it fully released. It would be fully released when they tell us, okay, we're stopping to create content. But that's a living game that gets regular content. The same thing as League of Legends or things like Dota. There's constant releases. You cannot just consider the game is done. There's just always new things, right? So, but I do share some of your sentiments, Strawman. I would love for the game to pick up the pace, but at the same time, if they're releasing new content or sets, if they release every 2 months something, right? Every 4 month a PvP set, every 4 month a PvE release, and we get a release every 2 months, that means that we're in constant spoiler season and there's constantly new content to the game. If we're achieving that state with this game, I would personally consider that the X is fully released. If we have, new content every 2 months, whatever it may be. And in between we have, if we have a new release every 2 months, that leaves 6 months during the year. And if these 6 months are the months where we have, events like the Haunted Hollow, for instance, that would mean that every single month we either have a seasonal event or a PvE release or a PvP release. That would be insane. That would be insane. I would need 14 days per week to cover everything, and that would be great. And I think that might even be too much. If they have a steady release stream, maybe they will want to slow it down if the content is really good and has a lot of replayability value. Because you don't want to just, release too much content too quickly. So you need to you want to have your players just digest the content before you release new content. We're no Kickstarters. Very important, something everyone misses. Nowhere on the Kickstarter does it say those features were going to be out that year. All they promised was to have the game out, and that's true. That's perfectly that's 100% true. They never ever mentioned that they would release full-featured game before they at the Kickstarter release. That's just not. That's just crazy to think that they would do that. Now we're okay. So we're at the 9:45 minute. I wish I would have more time today. There's so much to cover. Next week I will try to have a longer stream to cover up most things. But this week I just had the time to cover the news, and we're going to do, of course, the giveaway for the week. So crack a pack. For those who are not familiar with the stream, every Sunday morning we have the learning experience episode. We crack 5 packs. The rares and legendaries that we open will be sent as a giveaway to anyone that is active in the chat in the last 15 minutes. So it usually takes about 10-15 minutes to do the giveaway. So if you're active in the chat right now, you should be able to participate. But just be active in the chat, you will be able to participate in a giveaway. And I will just acquire the packs here that I need, and then we should be good to go. Set hero file. We could do something different this week though. Since I have a small stream, what's the cost of set 1 packs? I feel like we're doing something different this week. Let's buy 5 set 1 packs and do the draft giveaway with the set 1 packs. Maybe we'll get a Vampire King in there. That would be cool. Let's just do that. Or we have, oh, you know what? We have 5 sets released. Let's do 1 of each. 1 of each. So set 1, set 2, one set 2. Oh, and we'll see if my memory of the draft meta of these sets is accurate. That would be a big challenge, but we'll see. Set 3, set 4, and we've got a set 5 pack. So Today we're going to do one of each. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Alright. Alright, so we're going to do a draft pack from each set this week. We're going to have fun with this one. Alright, so starting with set 1. I don't know if you were around with set 1, but the draft meta was very interesting in set 1. Let's see if we can find a way to do this. Maybe we get a nice legendary card. So this is a set 1 pack. Let's see what we get. So Buffet pack giveaway. Set 1, set 2, set 3, set 4, set 5. Alright. Let's see. So, uncommons we have Corrupted Harvester, Hauling Ambush, Chlorophilia, Experimental Warlock. In the common section we have Sapper's Charge is a good card, good removal here. Ruby Lens is okay, but these are not really the cards that you wanted to get. I feel that the Corrupted Harvester right now is the strongest to take for the set 1 meta. Chlorophilia might be worth more than the rare right now. So if you guys identify cards that you want from these packs for the giveaway, maybe we'll note. Yeah, that's a good point. Chlorophilia. We'll add Chlorophilia to the pool of cards for the giveaway, since it might be worthwhile. Yeah, I think it's clear, right? It would be Harvester. We would take Harvester right now. But let's see what the rare is. It might just be a sweet rare. Let's see. We have Judgment as the rare. So destroy all cards with a cost less than the highest cost among cards you control. Hey, Melisonor, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome to the team. Now, I don't think I would take Judgment in set 1. There's no guarantee that you have the highest cost card on the board, but at the same time it is a semi board wipe, but it doesn't really hold value. So I think we would go with Harvester at this point, but Judgment is a workable card, but yeah, I would take Chlorophilia or Harvester. These are the two strongest cards in the pack. Hauling Ambush was playable, but it wasn't. It was a very specific archetype. But Experimental Warcraft is perfectly fine. But Harvester is just, you will win game with Harvesters. They need to be removed. If they're not, you're just winning the game, and that's pretty much it. So I could pick Harvester, but Chloro is best for value. Yeah. Nope JPEG. What is a nope JPEG? It doesn't work. Okay. So yeah, I think this is Chlorophilia, Judgment, and there's an Harvester, but I think we would take the Harvester there. Alright, so that was a set 1 pack. Now we need to go on to set 2. So Shattered Destiny was the second set that was released. Then Armies of Myth, then Prominent Dawn, then Herofall. So we're at Shattered Destiny now. So it was the draft format was a set 1, set 1, set 2 meta. So you never. Oh, we get a legendary! Yes, set 2 legendary. Oh my, is that a Reese? What other legendary card from set 2 are played right now? Monsoon, Reese would be nice value. Nice, we get a legendary now. Alright, so if we look at the uncommons, we've got Cockatwise was perfectly playable. It's a strong card. In the common section, we have Mesmeric Hypnoscientist is okay. The Tri-Shard Human deck was very strong in that meta. The Vanguard of Celluria is a playable card, but we don't see it on a removal. Meek was perfectly fine as well. I think I would take the Cockatrice, but let's not kid ourselves. We have a legendary there. We will have a legendary from... Oh, Eulogy! Oberon's Eulogy is a legendary from set 2. And it's played right now in Constructed, so there might be very high value there. Shard of Innovation, I think, as a innovation, I think that it holds some value right now, at least in terms of gold. So I think I will add it in the price pool as well. Ratwood Master Moss, wasn't it set 3 Master Moss? Okay, so here it is. Let's see what we have. Legendary is Tyanost. Okay, so that would be first pick, right? There's no way we're not first picking Tyanost. And it's a strong card. It's a perfectly fine piece of PvP card. It's unplayable right now, but it's definitely a fine piece of PvP card. And once we have the Eternal format with Azure Face Sorceress with the damage gem, these dragon tends to be pretty good. But that still holds some amount of value there. So that's a nice legendary to have. Nice. We've got a legendary this week. This is not bad at all. And that would be the first pick. Let's not kid ourselves. I would take the Tyanost here. Even if you don't play it, that's nice value. And if you play it, you just win games. Alright, that was our set 2 pack here. Now on to set 3. Steven, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the learning experience. Alright, next one. Next one is set 3 booster. So the draft meta in set 3, it was set 333 for the most part. And what was the meta there? Oh yeah, we had the 5+ cost meta with the elves being aggressive. Skewer here is a very big deal. I feel the uncommon Play with Fire was a very strong card. By the end of that meta, we learned that Art Color wasn't good enough because the meta was somewhat aggressive. Wolfwave Basher was one of the key cards as well. I think right now, for the most part, is between the Playing with Fire, Skewer, and Basher for the first pick. Was open in beta, celebrated full release. Yeah, full release is not the same thing as, you know, having new content released, but Wind Speaker is great in Sapphire and Diamond. Yeah, it was. Yeah, being able to exhaust a troop every turn is very significant. So I don't remember the format well enough to make an educated decision, but you know, the Playing with Fire decks were extremely good with what was her name? The Champion Power that creates a 7/7 for 5 cost. Might Singer Alendra, I believe, is the name of the champion. And yeah, Shark was super good for limited. Shark. Let's see. I think it would be. I would personally go with Playing with Fire as the first pick. And but you know, Skewer is very tempting, but it's double ruby cost. So let's see what we get here as a rare. Set 3 rare. We get Prodigy of Volosolov. Okay, I did it right. So Prodigy of Volosolov. All right, that's a cool card. I don't think there was a 5 shard. Oh, I think there was a 5 shard archetype in set 3, and if there was, then this would be the first pick. Even then, I mean, it's a 3/2 for 3. The power just mostly you can ignore, but yeah, that's a cool card. And you know, as we get more content in the future, the Necrotic deck might very well be a very cool deck. Not to mention that we're having some very strong Necrotic in the Adventure Zone 2, and with the new 1-drop, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Necrotic team deck in Adventure Zone 2 doing fairly well So 5 shards was 443. 333. Yeah. So we'll see. Prodigy of Volos out of the card here. If not, playing with Fire and Windspeaker were likely the picks. Alright. Next, set 4. We had set 4 for a while. Here we go. The uncommons. Arendelle, Midnight Fever. The Cybercraft Flesh Reaver, that was a very strong uncommon. The Cinder Stump was a very strong uncommon as well. Looking at the commons here, we've got Shepherds was playable, Gladiator was playable, Apprentice was playable, Cloud Speaker was playable, Explorer is perfectly playable, Brave was okay, Rider was okay. I think I would go with Apprentice here. It's an empowered card, so it has added flexibility, and being able to remove blocker was very good with the set 4 meta. The other card I would tinker with is the Flesh Reaver. Remember that in set 4 we had access to the Yuzu champion, so Flesh Reaver is a fairly fine pick. You might not even need to go with Yuzu, but if you go with Yuzu, having a Flesh Reaver is just game winning for the most part. I think that's the biggest bomb of the pack, and it is an artifact, so it seemed to be keeping your option open, but in reality it doesn't really keep your option open because you're not playing it because of the steadfast. You're playing it to be an evasive or swift strike threat with either Ridge 2 or +1/+1. So there's a few chart combinations that are not really good with Flesh Reaver. But it does keep your options, decently open. I love the Ashwood Apprentice, but it would be, for me right now, it would be very close between the two. It depends of, what's my perception of the limited meta, right? If it's very aggressive, I would want to go with the Apprentice. I've seemed to remember that Ruby was a very good shard and that draft meta as well, so being aggressive here with the Apprentice is perfectly fine. But if you want to go with a bomb and just a diverse deck, I think the Flesh Reaver is the pick by a long shot. Cinder Stump is pretty good as well, but I think I would go with these two first, because this one needs actions to be enabled, and you don't know yet if you will have a good amount of actions. So let's see what the set 4 rare is. Oh, Crucible of Morvart. This is clearly a playable card in Constructed. It's just a reserves card, but it is a playable card in its own right in Constructed. It does something that you will likely need for a long time in Constructed, even more in the Immortal format. Being able to deal with the crypt will be very significant. Unless they play more efficient ways to do this, this will be a playable card in Constructed for a long time. It's something to have. If you're interested in Constructed, it's something to have. It might even be part of some PvE decks for specific encounters as well. But I would not take this first pick for sure, unless it has a lot of value. But I don't think it's crazy amount of value right now. I would take the Apprentice or the Reaver. It really depends on the perception of the format at the time. But it would be between these two. So this was our set 4 pack. Now let's do a set 5 pack. So let's see, that's the current set. Let's see if we get a nice mercenary. Alright. Whoa! 2 legendaries this week. 2 legendaries this week. Nice. Yeah, we're going to draft the set 6 packs after that. Alright. Will we get insane value for the giveaway this week? That's the big thing. Alright, this is a set 5 pack. And looking at the uncommons, we've got the Ardent Officer. It might just be one of the second strongest uncommon in the set, and it's stronger than most rares. Captain is a very strong card as well. Looking at the commons, we've got an Ironsmith. This perfectly fine pick here, and a Brute as well, but I would go with the Officer for the most part. You know, Ruby is so deep that you really don't mind being, you know, taking an early Ruby card, and there's Diamond, and Diamond is the best shard to start with because it pairs well with Blood and it pairs well with Ruby as well. And Ruby Blood is a thing, right? You want to be either in Ruby or Diamond early in the draft. I feel like it opens the most options, and Blood, but Ardent Officer is just so strong. But we've got a legendary here. So the legendaries that I have value right now, we got the Matriarch, the Empress, Might Singer. We've got the Unbound one. I don't remember the card. We've got a ton of cards, and you know, in the past few weeks, I already opened 3 Psychic Ascension with set 5 packs. So I really hope that it's not my 4th Psychic Ascensions. And we even opened in one episode 2 Psychic Ascensions in the same pool. So Darkheart, Hero of Legion. There's a ton of very valuable legendary cards. So without further ado, let's reveal what's the legendary card here. Fallen Singularity. This is an interesting card though. It might not be very valuable right now, but it might be playable in the future. Fallen Singularity. It still holds some amount of value though. I think we have, between the Tyanos, the Singularity, and the other cards, I think we're reaching about close to 1000 platinum of value. Fallen Singularity is powerful. I mean, it does a lot of powerful things. It provides you with an insane engine to draw to get shards. It also gives all troop of the chosen type +1/+1, so it provides with an interesting context there. And it's certainly a nice card, but I wouldn't say it's a bomb unlimited though. I'd be very careful with that. If you manage to get a deck that is very close to mono something, then yes, it could be good. But it does impact the board when you play it. So if you already have a board state, playing the Singularity is great, and then you can compound your champion power activation, which could be very good. However, if you're behind, if you're on the defensive, it's not great. It doesn't do anything for you. So it's okay on parity most of the time, and it's not good on the defensive. And since it's not good on the defensive, you know, it's hard. You would pick that for value, but if you're in the CCS and you want to win big money, I think you're taking either the Officer or the Captain here, no question. But that's very interesting here. It's strong. I don't have a lot of experience with it, and I certainly didn't play against it, so I'm not. I don't know if it's really a bomb. It's a strong card, and I would certainly pick it first here, just for the sake of having the legendary. That is a significant card, but if you're playing in the CCS, do you really think take Fallen Singularity first? That's a good question. That's a good question. Here, let's delete the card. So we're going to proceed with the giveaway here. You just need to be active in the chat. Let me pull out the giveaway. Not this one. This one. So just be active in the chat in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and I will be rolling out a giveaway in the next minute. So just be active in the chat. So we had, and I'm giving you guys, by the time I'm finished building up the email, in-game email for the giveaway, we will roll out the giveaway. Just be active in the chat. The best way to be active in the chat for the giveaways for my stream is to flip some tables. So just don't hesitate to flip tables here. That's the best way to be active in CoachFliperon's stream, as it turns out. So we had the Shard of Innovation, we had the Judgment for the giveaway. We had a Chlorophilia. here we had a I got a judgment, the Chlorophylla, the shard of innovation, Tyanast. Yep, here it is. We had Volosalov, Prodigy of Volosalov, which I've got 9. We've got Crucible here. Nice thing for the reserves to have. And we had the Fallen Singularity here. Hey, I didn't even have one. Alright. Hello? Alright, so attached all the cards here. That's a nice pool of cards for you for the winner to this week. So let's look at the giveaway screen for a second there. And we've got 31 participants in the giveaway right now. Last opportunity to be active in the chat to win the Shard of Innovation, a Judgment, Chlorophylla, Tyanast, Prodigy of Volosalov, Crucible of Morvart, and the Fallen Singularity. So going once, going twice, and the winner is Elwins, long-time viewer. Glad to see you win there, buddy. So let's see, what is your in-game name? Elwins. And same thing, perfect. Rigged. Alright, so let me just paste that here. You win. Thanks for watching HEXperience. Alright, and send mail. Just like that. Just like that. Alright. Should deactivate the giveaway screen there. I'm pretty much out of time here for the stream today. So, thank you so much for watching. As always, you can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Twitch, where you're looking at right now. CoachFliperon everywhere in game as well. Don't hesitate to send me a friend invite and engage me. I'm also trying to be a more more steady presence on the forums as well. So don't hesitate to give a shout out there. Very cool way to interact with the community, and stay tuned. Tons of news coming, tons of content. I did not forget PvP. I still need to be cosmic in PvP and in limited. So expect to see that, more of that on the stream as well in the future. But for now, since we're going to have a PvE release, I'm going to concentrate on PvE for the most part this time. So thank you so much for watching. Lastly, let me just check if we have some nice streams going on here this morning. And you can also find me as of 2 weeks ago. You could start to find me on Momcard stream as well in French. If you speak French and you want to have some streaming contents for X, don't hesitate to up on Thursday night. I'll be streaming in French for X on the Momcards channel. I'm part of their team now, and that's also a little something. And of course, all stream recordings will be available on my YouTube channel, so don't hesitate to join me there. And I'm going to host the Momcard streams right now. It is in French, so don't be surprised, but it is a nice stream nonetheless. And the players there are strong players. So don't hesitate to give them a shout out and encourage them if you speak French. That would mean a lot. We're trying to grow the French community as well. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a nice week.